So if you're a Spider-Man fan, you've probably heard of the argument about Miles Morales and whether he is defined as Spider-Man or not. This was a massive argument at the beginning of the year, but since the debate has sparked back up over Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now, I think it's time to put my 2 cents on the debate. And once again, people are trying to convince the populace that Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man. And their main argument usually stems from the idea that when you think of Spider-Man, the immediate reaction is towards that of Peter Parker. When someone says Spider-Man, people think of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, Josh Keaton's version of the Wall Crawler. And because of this, the case is that when you want to refer to Peter Parker, you would usually just say Spider-Man. And then when you'd want to refer to Miles Morales to avoid confusion with Peter Parker, you would simply refer to him as Miles Morales instead of Spider-Man. Thus, the argument is born. People say that because of this, Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man, and the title doesn't apply to him, and the title only applies to Peter Parker. In today's video, I want to break this down, and I want to explore this idea and come to a real conclusion. Does this referral of Miles, as opposed to how we refer to Peter, mean that Miles isn't actually Spider-Man and doesn't deserve the title? Let's break it down. First, I think we need to look at why this controversial way of referring to two characters of the same power set has come about anyway. Peter Parker was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in the 1960s, and for the largest part of his existence has been the only version of Spider-Man. Since then, especially in the last 2 decades, there has been an influx in Spider-People. This includes characters such as Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy becoming Spider-Woman, Hobie Brown as Spider-Punk, and a bunch of other Elseworld Spider-Men and women across the multiverse. However, for the most part, Peter Parker has been the one and only Spider-Man, meaning that the 40 years prior to the popularization of Spider-Man variants, Peter Parker has gained the association with the Spider-Man title. And this makes total sense, since he was the only Spider-Man for such a long period of time. Thus, when you say Spider-Man, the first person that anyone thinks about, rightly so, is Peter Parker, who is the longest reigning and most popular version of the character. I also think this point is reinforced by the fact that Spider-Man is quite literally the most popular superhero in the world. If merchandise sales alone are anything to go off of, Spider-Man is the most popular superhero than all of the Avengers combined. The only other characters that are quite comparable to the popularity of Spider-Man are Batman and Superman. And since Peter Parker is the identity of the world's most known superhero, then obviously it makes sense that Peter Parker is always referred to as Spider-Man, and that connection will never be lost. But then the question remains, does this mean that Miles Morales or anyone else can in fact carry a title that has been so heavily attached to the character of Peter Parker? And, in my opinion, yes they can, and here is why. There is one character that no one thinks about when thinking of this Miles Morales debate, and that is Ben Reilly. Now, some people will say, but Ben Reilly is Scarlet Spider, and that is what makes him different from Peter Parker, who is commonly referred to as Spider-Man. And you'd be right, except there was a period in the comics where Ben Reilly actually took up the mantle of Spider-Man. It is not until after he became Scarlet Spider. At this point in the comics, this allowed Peter Parker to settle down and carry on living his personal life. Despite how poorly received these set of stories were, considering they were amongst the Clone Saga run of comics, Ben Reilly was still Spider-Man for a set of time. However, no one will bat an eyelid at his mantle being Spider-Man for that set of time. Now, he has since returned to become the Scarlet Spider and has also gone on to be many other titles in recent times as well, including Chasm. But I don't like thinking about that dog web, it's beyond bad. However, it still remains that Ben Reilly was Spider-Man at one point, proving that people didn't have an issue with that at the time. The problems with those comics in general reached far further than the fact that Ben Reilly had the Spider-Man title, but since it's being made such a big deal with Miles Morales, it's surprising that this was never an issue that had ever been brought to light before, especially when Ben Reilly was Spider-Man for a certain time in the comics. Even though the Clone Saga is beyond confusing for anyone to really comprehend, at one point or another it did look like Ben Reilly was going to be the Spider-Man for the foreseeable future, meaning that Peter Parker would end up being retired. Obviously, that idea got scrapped and it was reverted back to being Peter Parker. However, like I said, there was a point in time in which Ben Reilly was Spider-Man and looked like he was going to be Spider-Man for the foreseeable future. However, the same issue that people have with Miles Morales was never brought up about Ben Reilly. But maybe you're not convinced. Maybe you feel as if because Ben went on to have different titles, it doesn't really count. Well, okay then, let's look at another popular superhero that has legacy characters. Let's talk about The Flash. Now, who do you think about when I say The Flash? No doubt, it's Barry Allen. For most of you, Barry Allen will be the most common, most recognizable, and most well-known Flash across audiences. However, Barry Allen isn't the only Flash. Remember, The Flash has been Jay Garrick, Wally West, and of course Barry Allen, just to name a few. In fact, there was a period in which Wally West was a more popular Flash than the Silver Age man himself. If anything, the mantle of the Flash proves that there is nothing wrong with having multiple characters that use the same title across all of media. Because we have gotten times where Wally West in the DC animated universe was the Flash at the time, but in the comics, it was Barry Allen. Two different identities, and they both use the same title. When someone talks about the Flash, there's a chance at first that you won't actually know who they're talking about. But commonly, it will be Barry Allen, as he is the most popular version of the character. But just because the title has been strongly associated with Barry for most of the Flash's existence, it doesn't mean that Jay and Wally are not the Flash. Not to mention, Barry isn't even the original Flash. Jay Garrick was the original Flash in the comics, but no one refers to Barry as Barry Allen and Jay Garrick as the Flash. And vice versa can be applied to Wally West, whichever way you look at it. No matter what angle you come at it, when you talk about Barry Allen, he's the Flash. When you talk about Jay Garrick, he is the Flash. When you talk about Wally West, he's still the Flash. Yeah, I know Wally West went by Kid Flash at one point, but he's still been the Flash and no one had any problem with it. So returning to the Spider-Man conversation, Miles Morales is Spider-Man, and there's no other way around it. The way that we refer to characters doesn't have any impact on the title or the legacy that they hold. Miles Morales can wall crawl, use webs, has a variation of the classic Spider-Man threads, and lives and values the same responsibility and commitment that Peter Parker does, which makes him Spider-Man, despite what any of you say. Nothing more and nothing less. Yes, in the past, I have referred to Miles as Miles and Peter as Spider-Man, and I will go on to in the future as well. But the referral does not mean that Miles isn't less of a Spider-Man than Peter Parker is. And that's a fact. And that is the way that it always will be. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit a like on it and also make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this debate? Personally, Miles Morales is Spider-Man, and that is the way that it always will be. That is the way that it is now, and it will never change. Either way, subscribe for more Spider-Man content. This is literally a Spider-Man channel, so subscribe because you like Spider-Man. Because if you got this far, you like Spider-Man, all right? So just subscribe because I'm watching you, all right? I see you. Either way, thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.